Hi guys, welcome to Inside Daily Current Affairs. It's the 9th September. Let's start. So these are the following topics we are going to discuss about the current affairs in this video. So let's start this. So first is the content of GS2 Citizenship Amendment Act 2019, Supreme Court Collegium, and Iran nuclear deal. So what is Citizenship Amendment Act 2019? The Tamil Nadu Assembly has adopted a resolution urging in the centre to appeal the Citizenship Amendment Act 2019. With this, Tamil Nadu has joined the states like Kerala and West Bengal in passing the resolution against the CA. The state said law is not in the tune with the secular principles. Down in the constitutions and also not conducive to communal harmony and the prevails in India. So what is the background behind this? The CAA Act 2019 was notified on the December 12, 19 and came into the force from the January 10, 2020. It seeks to amend the Citizen Act 1955. The Citizen Act 1955 provides a various way in which citizen may be acquired. Provides for the citizen by birth, descent, registration, naturalization, and by incorporation of the territory into India. What is about CAA? So the objective of the CAA. The objective is to grant the Indian citizenship to the persecuted minorities like Hindu, Sikh, Jain, Buddhist, Parsi, Christians from the Pakistan, Bangladesh and Afghanistan, and those from these communities who had come to India till the December 3114 facing the religious persecutions in their respective countries will not be treated illegal immigrants but given the Indian citizenship. The act provided that the central government cancel the registration of the OCI on the certain grounds. So what is the exceptions of this act? Act does not apply to tribal areas. The act does not apply to tribal areas of Tripura, Mizoram, Assam and Meghalaya because of being included in the 6th schedule of the constitutions, and also area that fall under the inner limitations notified under the Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulations 1873. Outside the Act's preview, issues surrounding the law. It violates the basic tenets of the constitutions. Illegal immigrants are distinguished on the basis of religion, and it is perceived to be a demographic threat to the indigenous communities. It may illegal immigrants eligible for the citizenship on the basis of religion. It may violate the Article 14 of the Constitution, which guarantees the right to equality. It attempts to neutralize the citizenship of the illegal immigrants in the region. It allows the cancellation of the OCI registration for the violation of any law. This is a wide ground that may cover a wide range of the violations, including the minor offences. So what is insta-curious? How NRC is different from the CA? Are there any similarity between the two? So you have to compare the NRC and the CA. So this is something comparison like NRC versus CA. What is prelims link in this? About CA, features, legion covers, country covered, exceptions. Supreme Court Collegium. So Supreme Court Collegium has approved 10 additional judges of the Karnataka High Court and the 2 from the Kerala High Court for the appointment as a permanent judges of these courts. Collegium is punishing hard to fill the vacancies. This is likely to study flow of the recommendations of names for filing the vacancies in the 25 high courts, which have over the 465 vacancies. This is over 41% of the total sanctioned judicial strength and 1098 in the high courts. Who appoint the judges to SC? In the exercise of the power conferred by the Clause 2 of Articles 124 of the Constitution of India, the appointments are made by the President of India. Names are recommended by the Collegium. Eligibility to become a Supreme Court judge. Norms relating to the eligibility envisaged in the Articles 124 of the Indian Constitution. To become a judge of the Supreme Court, an individual should be an Indian citizen. Person shall not exceed 65 years of the age, and the person shall serve as judge of High Court or the more continuously for at least 5 years, or an advocate in the High Court for at least 10 years. Is the Collegium's recommendations final and the binding? The Collegium sends its final recommendation to the President of India for the approval. The President can either accept it or reject it. In the case reject, recommendation came back to the Collegium. If the Collegium reiterates its recommendation to the President, then he or she bound by the recommendations. Common criticism made against the Collegium systems: opaqueness and the lack of transparency, scope of nepotism, embroilment in the public controversies, overlook several talented junior judges and advocates. Reforms needed: a transparent and the participatory procedure by the independent, broad-based constitutional body, but not the judicial exclusivity. It should ensure the independence, reflect the diversity, demonstrate the professional competency and the integrity. Instead of selecting the number of judges required against a certain number of vacancies, the Collegium must provide a panel of possible names to the President to the appointment in order to preference and other valid criteria. Next topic is the Iran nuclear deal. The effect of the policy in the politics. The US and Germany have stepped up the pressure on the Iran to return soon to talks on its nuclear program. Meanwhile, the UN nuclear watchdog, International Atomic Energy Agency, said Iran had continued to increase the stockpile of the highly enriched uranium in the breach of that code. IAEA also said that the verification and monitoring activities have been seriously undermined. The last round of the talks by the remaining parties to the 2015 nuclear accord ended in the June, and no date has been set for the assumptions about the Iran nuclear deal, also known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan for Action. JCPOA was a result of the prolonged negotiations from the 2013 and 15 between the Iran and P5 plus countries. Under the deal, the Tehran agreed to significantly cut its stores of the centrifuges, enriched the uranium and heavy water, all key components for the nuclear weapons. What's the concern now? Trump pulled the US out of that code in 2018, and besides he opted for maximum pressure campaign by imposing the sanctions and the other tough actions. Iran responds by intensifying its enrichment of the uranium and building of the centrifuges, while maintaining its insistence that its nuclear development was for the civilians, not for the military purpose. In the January 2020, the following drone strikes on the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps commanded the General Qasem Soleiman. Iran announced that it would no longer observe the JCPOA restraints. The collapse of the JCPOA drags Iran toward the nuclear brinkmanship, like North Korea, which has created a major geopolitical instability in the region and beyond. Significance of the deal for India: removing the sanctions may revive the India's interest in the Chabahar port, Bandar Abbas port, and other plans. This would further help India to neutralize the Chinese presence in the Gwadra port, Pakistan. Restoration of the ties between the US and Iran helped the India to procure the cheap Iranian oil, aid in the energy security. Next one is the MSP. So what is the MSP? The Cabinet Committee on the Economic Affairs approved the increase in the MSP for the all mandated Rabi crops for the Rabi marketing season. This will ensure the maximum remunerative price for the farmers, also encourage them to sow a wide variety of the crops. So what is MSP? MSP is the rate at which government buys the grain from the farmers. It fixed the MSP for the 23 crops grown in both the Kharif and Rabi season. MSP is the rate at which government purchases the crops from the farmers, and based on the calculation of at least 1.5 times the cost of the production incurred by the farmers. The Union Budget for the 1819 had announced the MSP would kept at the level of 1.5 the cost of production. MSP is fixed twice a year, and the recommendation of the commissions for the agriculture cost and prices, which is statutory body, and submit the separate reports recommending the price for the Kharif and Rabi seasons. Which production costs are taken in fixing an MSP? CAP considers both A2 and FLP, and C2 costs by recommending the MSP. A2 costs that were all paid out expenses, both in cash and kind, incurred by the farmer on the seeds, fertilizers, chemicals, hired laborers, fuel, irrigations, and among others. It covers the actual paid up costs plus an imputed value of the unpaid salary laborers. C2 costs account for the rentals and the interest foregone on the own land and fixed capital assets, respectively. The limitations of the MSP. The major problem with the MSP is the lack of the government machinery for the procurement for the old crops. Wheat and rice, which Food Corporation of India actively procures under the PDS. As the state government procures the last mile grain, the farmer of the states where the grain is procured completely by government benefit more, while those in the states that procure less are often affected. MSP-based procurement system is also dependent on the middleman, commission agent, APMC officials, which smaller farmers find difficult to get access to. Jharkhand House clears the bill for the 75% quota for the locals. The Jharkhand State Employment of the Local Candidate Bill 2021 recently passed by the State Assembly. It provides a 75% reservation for the locals in the private sector jobs. The same thing is the Haryana also, while the monthly salary of up to 40,000. Jharkhand will become the third state after the Andhra and Haryana to post such a law. How does the bill define the private sector job? The bill will treat the shops, establishment, mine enterprises, society, trust, and the LLP, and any person employing the 10 or more person as a private sector, the same notified by the government time to time. Every employer needs to register the employees on the designation portal who are receiving the gross monthly salary of which is not more than 40,000 as notified by the government from time to time within the 3 months of the bill coming to force. No person should be engaged or employed unless the registration process is complete. No local candidate will be eligible to avail the 75% benefit without registering herself in the resignation portal. Employer may claim the exemptions where an adequate number of the local candidate to desired skills. Employer will either furnish a quarterly return about the vacancies and the employment of the portal, which will examined by the authorized officers and district employment officers. The aggrieved employer may file an appeal within 60 days of the order passed by the AO and DO in the front of the appellate authority. Concerns and issue with this policy: violate the constitutional provisions, impact the unity in diversity. Policy can lead to a situation of local versus non-local in the area. This might discourage the capital investment in the region, impact the freedom of business, against the spirit of the competition. Assam government unveils the electric vehicle policies. Assam government has unveiled the electric vehicle policies as phase out the vehicle running on the fossil fuels by the 2030. Highlights of the policy. Policy aims to introduce at least 2 lakh vehicles within the next 5 years to the set of the incentives for the buyer. It entails the converting all the government vehicles and fleet of public buses to electric. In order to encourage the people to buy the EV, state government will give a subsidy of the 20,000 on the 2-wheelers and 50,000 for the 3-wheelers, 1.5 lakh for the 4-wheelers. 100% exemption of the registration fees and the road tax and parking fees for the EV. It also invites a charging station for the EV across the states. Entrepreneurs setting up the station will get a 90% discount. on the electricity bill for the first 5 years. Government of India initiative to give the boost to the EV. Government aims to see the 6 million electric and hybrid vehicles on the road by 2020 under the National Electric Mobility Mission Plan. Faster adoption and manufacturing of electric vehicle in India for improving the electric mobility. Implementation of smart cities boosts the growth of electric vehicles. Challenges ahead. Indian electric vehicle market currently has one of the lowest penetration rates in the world. Capital costs are high and payoff is uncertain. Indian EV industry has been hit hard due to the rupee dramatic depreciation in recent months. Local production of the inputs for the EV at just about 35% of total input production. Production will severely affected in terms of production cost. Fast adoption manufacturing of electric vehicle framework has been extended repeatedly. Certain policy, environment and lack of the supporting infrastructure are major roadblock. India does not have the known reserves of the lithium and cobalt to make the batteries like the China and Japan. Need overhaul. For the EV to contribute effectively, we need common state efforts in developing an entire ecosystem. Need to shift the focus from subsidizing vehicle to subsidize batteries. Increasing the focus on the individualizing the electric vehicles, because two-wheeler account for the 76% of the vehicles. A wide network of the charging stations is imminent for attracting investments. Corporate could invest in charging stations at the corporate social responsibilities. Acquiring the lithium fields in Boria, Australia and Chile could become important as buying oil fields in India as a raw material. So this is all for the today's current affair. If you like the video, please hit the like button and subscribe the channel. Let's meet it tomorrow with a new session.